Good evening. GP services in Scotland are reaching tipping point because of staffing shortages, and it's putting patients at risk. That's the warning from doctors. It comes as a survey of GPs by the British Medical Association in Scotland shows over 80% of respondents said demand was exceeding capacity. The Scottish Government says it is investing and recruiting to improve matters. Here's our health correspondent Lisa Summers.
This community group is all about well-being, but when the conversation turns to seeing a GP, the vibe drops.
An absolute nightmare trying to get an appointment. I'll be quite honest, I gave up calling because every time I call, I'm not getting any answers.
The irony in the same building is the local GP surgery. But like every other day, the 3 call handlers that work here break bad news.
Unfortunately, we've reached capacity this morning, but is there anything I can help you with?
Why can't they see a GP?
Well, one very good reason you can't see a GP is because there aren't enough GPs. We can absolutely understand patient frustration and fear that they and their loved ones are maybe not getting access to the care that they deserve. And we agree, we think that the provision is not enough. We cannot work any harder. We are doing everything that we can.
There has been a small rise in overall GP numbers, and the government says it's spending £170 million a year on recruiting more, as well as support staff to help. But demand has also been growing for many years, and the BMA says over a third of practices have vacancies, up on last year.
I worry that we're reaching a tipping point for some practices. They lose 1, maybe 2 doctors out of 3, and the remaining doctors cannot continue. So they return the contract, the practice, as may cease to exist, and that is a real concern in some parts of Scotland.
90% of our contact with the health service comes through the community, so things like GP practices. But doctors say we're going to have to get used to changes in the way that we get appointments or access healthcare because they simply cannot meet demand. But the fear is, if we can't sort out the strain in this part of the system, then it's only going to add to pressure in our hospitals and longer waits at A&E. Lisa Summers reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
Meanwhile, the union Unison has confirmed its members have rejected the Scottish Government's latest pay offer to NHS staff. It comes following a 2-week consultative ballot, which saw 61% of members vote to reject the offer. Unison Scotland's Health Committee will meet this week to discuss next steps. The Health Secretary, Humza Yousaf, has already warned there's no more money for pay increases. 12 dead swans have been found in Hugganfield Park in Glasgow. It's understood 2 more sick birds have been identified. Glasgow City Council says it's assumed the birds have died from avian flu. Members of the public are advised to avoid any contact with a dead bird or any bird that appears to be visibly sick and to report it to the Council's environmental health team. 5 more warships are to be built on the Clyde. Confirmation of the decision to press ahead with the construction of the Type 26 frigates came overnight from the Prime Minister during the G20 summit in Bali. BAE Systems, which has sites in Govan and Scotstoun, has secured a £4.2 billion contract for the work, which could keep around 1,700 people at the yards in work. Here's our political correspondent, Andrew Kerr.
A miserable day in the Clyde, but joy for the workforce inside the BAE yard at Govan. 5 new Type 26 warships will be built here. That's on top of the 3 already under construction. BAE Systems say they'll build on that success.
So we're going to use this contract to invest in skills, in technology and infrastructure, which will make us increasingly competitive. The National Shipbuilding Strategy has a pipeline of orders that we're anxious to win in the future. So we approach the future with confidence, using this contract as a foundation for future success.
Shipbuilding is so heavily linked to Scotland's cultural identity. This fresh contract should ensure a new generation of workers busy now with the hard steel and high tech on this river. Shipbuilding is also a totemic issue politically. The local SNP MP welcomes the work. But does this mean the UK government kept its promises made in the 2014 independence campaign?
Not quite. I think that what we will have to wait and see is what happens with the next announcement, which will be the fleet support ships. Certainly, I take the view, as do many MPs across the political divide, that fleet the fleet support ships should be built in the UK.
The UK government say they've poured billions of pounds into Scottish defence shipyards and they're planning a 30-year pipeline of orders.
It's a huge investment by Rishi Sunak's government in our shipbuilding, and it will safeguard 3,500 jobs on the Clyde, as well as over 500 jobs across the UK. And not only that, it will boost our naval defences.
The Ministry of Defence has been criticised by a cross-party committee of MPs for wasting billions in procurement, so any cost overruns on this project will be watched carefully. The Prime Minister made the announcement about the deal at the G20 in Bali as he condemned Russian aggression. Building these anti-submarine hunters will protect jobs, but they have a future job to do, protecting us. Andrew Kerr, reporting Scotland.
To football, and Scotland head coach Steve Clarke says tomorrow's friendly in Turkey is ideal preparation for his team's upcoming qualifying campaign for the European Championship. Clarke and his players are in Diyarbakir with a near full strength squad, although Che Adams, Nathan Patterson and Kenny McLean have all pulled out, and there are no Celtic players either. They're in Sydney for a mid-season tournament. Liverpool teenager Calvin Ramsey could be handed his international debut.
We've managed to get a good percentage of the players with us that were with us last month, even though it's not an official FIFA window. So that was important. We can speak about what we did. We've already touched on what we did last camp in September, and we look to improve that. And obviously we've picked a difficult friendly. It's a difficult place to come. Turkey and ourselves are evenly matched in terms of world rankings, so we look forward to a good game.
And now Judith here. Hello.
Hello there, a very good evening to you at home. Well, skies cleared for a lovely dusk there across the Forth Bridge East, and it was a fine end of the day for many, or a dry end of the day, because that rain did clear, although it will continue to affect northern parts of the country. It'll just about clear the mainland in the next hour or so. Dry with clear spells elsewhere, leading to quite a chilly night, but still blowing a gale across the Northern Isles, and in fact severe gale force winds at times over the next couple of days. Now, as far as tomorrow morning is concerned, a pretty quiet start to the day. It'll be dry for most with some sunny spells. Just a few showers up the west coast first thing in the morning, and it could be cold enough for a touch of frost as well. A bit of a breeze running up the west coast, well, developing along the west coast I should say. Elsewhere dry, some sunshine, but in contrast milder for the Northern Isles, but blowing a here as well. Gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour for Shetland expected as we head through tomorrow, and rain will continue across Shetland, although it will clear from Orkney to blustery showers. As far as the rest of the day is concerned, generally it's dry. It's a quiet day of weather. Still a number of showers up the west coast and no change across the Northern Isles as well. Temperature-wise, highs were around about 10 Celsius. Then as we head into Thursday, this area of low pressures spilling up from the south, bringing outbreaks of rain and some high winds as well. So a rather wet day to come for eastern Scotland. Always driest in the west. That's your forecast.
Thanks, Judith. And that is Reporting Scotland. Our next update is during breakfast tomorrow. In the meantime, enjoy your evening. Bye for now.